Ce matin, le navire du sauvetage maritime est saturé de la proue à la poule.
It is an anniversary, but one which no one will celebrate, especially not in Senegal. It was 20 years ago, during the 2006 migration crisis. Hundreds of canoe-shaped small boats attempted to cross from the Senegalese coast to Canary Islands. Their slogan, Barça or Barsac, Barcelona or death. The words that, in practice, became reality for thousands of people whose lives were lost, swallowed up in the waves of the Exodus. Well, 20 years later, the crisis is far from being resolved. In fact, quite the contrary. 2024 holds the record for the highest number of deaths ever on the Atlantic route, more than 10,000. The figure even exceeds that of 2006. For the majority of the victims, the tragedy anonymous. Due to a lack of resources and any real political will, the shipwrecked are almost never identified. That's true as well, even for the bodies found in Senegal, hastily buried in mass graves, leaving behind thousands of families unable to mourn. But in silence, voices are now beginning to be raised. Associations and relatives are mobilising on the ground and on social media to give the dead a name and to break the cycle. Sarah Sakho, Simon Martin and Caitlin Kelly revisit Senegal for France 24.
We all had friends or acquaintances who were lost at sea. There are no wrecks, no boats. No information to really identify that a shipwreck happened. These are boats that just disappeared like that. We call them invisible shipwrecks.
In 2006, Saliou Dioft lived here in Yarach, a coastal suburb of Dakar, that became one of the main departure points of that year's migration crisis. Despite dreaming of Europe, he couldn't afford an attempt at the risky crossing. 20 years on, with thousands of lives lost at sea, Saliou sees history repeating itself in Senegal.
Today we are crying over the same missing people because it's a phenomenon that has not been eradicated and people continue to die. Even today we can count numbers but not people, and there is still no initiative from the authorities to record shipwrecks, identify the victims and provide feedback to families.
Now a humanitarian worker, Saliou dedicates his life to those who fall victim to this migration route. He says they've been erased from the national narrative and government policies for 20 years.
The feelings I had in 2006 are not the same as today. Back then it was sadness. We were losing our children, our brothers, our friends. But today there is a real feeling of anger towards the authorities who neglect this issue.
A neglect that's cut deep in Senegalese society, motivating Saliou to dedicate his life to the cause. With his association, Bozafi, the activist created a caravan of remembrance. The fourth edition of this memorial convoy is about to hit the road.
We will travel through parts of the country to talk with families of migration victims about ways to conduct searches.
30 activists, artists or former migrants travel together across the country. Using speakers and posters, they journey through Senegal to show the reality of the migration tragedy.
These are some of the messages we printed here to document a bit.
This meters-long banner lists those who died at sea in recent years.
Here, no name means it's an adult. Here, it means children.
66,000 missing people of different nationalities. Among them, thousands of Senegalese. Given the gaps in official records, Saliou says exact numbers are almost impossible.
We are an organization that is against numbers, because you cannot count people. They are not numbers, they are human beings. That's the idea of the caravan, to promote the right to identity of these missing persons, and the right of their families to know.
Over 10 days, the team will travel across Senegal, searching for relatives of the missing from 2006 to present day, hoping to reunite the families, the forgotten victims of the migration crisis, neglected for 20 years. Barça or Barsach, Barcelona or death, the popular slogan of 2006. It excludes those left behind without answers. In Thiaroye-sur-Mer, many still ask questions. A seaside town from which thousands have left, forced to sea by the city's poverty and lack of economic opportunity.
Here we don't even have a bathroom, but that's how it is.
Grief hangs in the air of this two-room house, now home to 10 people. 20 years ago, Majigen's son decided against her advice to attempt the crossing to the Canaries.
I told him that to go to Spain, he had to take the plane, but he didn't have the money. He said he'd take the boat. I told him I wouldn't allow it. I did everything to stop it from happening.
She's had no news of her son since, and no one knows what happened to his boat. A grief that plagues hundreds of mothers in Senegal. With often no bodies found, many never give up the search for their loved ones.
Hello, Aliou. How are you?
Mustafa is the founder of the Facebook page Trouvé ou Perdu, Lost or Found, which now has more than 200,000 members. With 13 other volunteers, they filter and respond to hundreds of posts every day.
Today we have to process all these messages.
About 1,500 disappearances are reported each year on the group, more than half connected to the migration route. And it's not just shipwrecks that tear families apart.
When a person has been at sea for several days without supplies, even no water to drink, they can easily lose their mind. There are people who think their child died at sea, yet they arrived, but they lost their memory, do not remember their name, their parents, or where they lived.
What remains are only posts without replies, grief left to the digital void.
These people left Bani on October 31st, 2023, on a boat with 173 people. Please contact their sisters if you've seen them anywhere.
This is my brother. His name is Alenias. In February 2006, he took a boat from Teruel to Spain. Please, if you have any information, help us.
The caravan of remembrance pulls into the western town of Sakho, the third stop of the year. On every part of the journey, the team's greatest challenge is to tackle the culture of silence.
The important thing is that families start to have the courage to talk about it, to take forward certain issues. We cannot lead this quest for them. We can only accompany them.
But first, they must find them. As there is no formal registry, Saliu's association has developed its own method.
First, we visit the neighborhood leaders, like imams and religious leaders, to talk to them about the idea of the caravan.
Throughout the day, activists conduct meetings across the city, both in search of families who've lost contact with their loved ones and to raise awareness among the community leaders.
With the caravan in Mbour, we found a family where 13 people had taken the boat. Today, it's important that we create spaces to talk about this.
It is very important what they taught me today. And it is we on the ground who will be able to talk about it and pass on the message.
After several hours, Salihu and his team find a family of the missing.
Okay.
Mohammed's cousin, Birame, took a boat in secret 8 months ago. After 8 days without news, another family member from the same boat described to Mohammed what had unfolded.
It was carrying 148 people. You must have heard about it. He got on it, but it was too hot inside the boat, so he went to the side to get some air. At that moment, a wave threw him into the sea. He also explained to me that when it comes to people who die of hunger or other causes, their bodies are also thrown into the sea.
The testimony reveals more than just this family's fate. Stories like this allow the association to build up a picture of each disaster and maybe give other families answers. Over the caravan's 4 years, the group has conducted similar investigations across the country.
We discovered a mass grave in Kafountine when we went there last year with the caravan. I think when you discover a mass grave, it's good to ask questions about how missing people are managed in Senegal.
To reach the site, you must first cross the Senegalese Bolong, a deep estuary surrounded by mangroves and forests. Hard-to-reach areas are known departure points to the Canary Islands.
It was in 2022. We found a boat in the Carcel Bolong that had caught fire. And we also found the dead.
Matthias and his fellow fishermen rushed to the wreckage in the water. He said the authorities stayed on shore. The group of fishermen recovered 15 bodies which they buried anonymously near the shipwreck site. Survivors said there were likely to be many more.
You see the stakes there? That's where we buried the dead. We should fence it maybe with a wall, but we don't have the means. That's why we put these stakes.
4 wooden sticks mark the only mass grave. For Matthias, the tragedy outweighs the meagre memorial.
No, it shouldn't be this way. The stakes will eventually disappear, and if they are gone when people come, no one will know it's here. I think we cannot forget. We must not forget.
Even access to the site through the thick bush is only maintained by a few local residents. Salihu's association wants to develop this site and create a memorial in honour of migration victims. It would be the first in the country. True justice, however, must also include the law. In Senegalese courts, many cases remain unresolved, trapping relatives in a legal grey area with sometimes heavy consequences.
Assalamu alaikum salam. Ça va na def? Ça va bien ami. Ñëw nga.
Is this your husband? That's what you said?
Yes. 5 years ago, Amy Fai's husband disappeared at sea. She's since remarried, but authorities won't recognise her as the owner of the house left to her by her former husband due to lack of official documentation.
If I don't change the papers to my name, I could be evicted at any time, and then where would I go with my children? That's why I'm here, to prevent problems and protect them.
With the help of the Red Cross, Amy is trying to obtain a death certificate, a process that many families find overwhelming.
There are people who refuse to testify. This is a problem linked to customs, ignorance, or the restraint of the population in this area. Here, we're not used to going to law enforcement or to the courts to speak out.
Some believe themselves complicit in a crime and fear legal repercussions. An unfounded anxiety, say members of the court.
The court is willing to assist them so that all legal questions are addressed in the best possible way. But the court awaits to be formally approached on these questions. It does not have the power to act on its own.
Today, very few families have taken this step. In Senegal, only one woman has so far succeeded in obtaining a death certificate for her husband. This document has helped Fatou overcome her tragedy and secure her children's future.
I want my children to receive the inheritance that's rightfully theirs and to be able to move in with them. Because this isn't our home.
A new chapter for Fatou and a rare one for Senegal. Activists say the void left by the missing will continue to haunt the country.
We cannot bury them because they are not here, but we can still pray for all our missing, all our dead. It's a last way to give them dignity.
In 2024, 10,000 men, women and children were reported dead or went missing along the Atlantic route. 20 years on, and waves of sorrow still fall on the shores of Senegal.